We are recording. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Connect and Collaborate White Sands self-care group. So happy to have you here and to have my beautiful guest, Vanessa Raymond. She is my second guest this week. We'll have another one tomorrow. But Vanessa, as a professional dancer, a musical theater performer, fitness and beauty professional, and multiple business owner, Vanessa has experienced the loss of her own self-confidence due to image issues and limiting beliefs. And on her journey, she has successfully overcome these beliefs and obliterated the low self-esteem and the lack of confidence. Vanessa now teaches people how to conquer these feelings and prosper at a high level in all areas of their lives. Vanessa's approach to this is practical, and the principles she shares with you are things you can implement in your life right away and see immediate results. She is a CEO. She is the founder of Victory Factor and Killer Confidence, a speaker, a published author, and a very dear friend of mine for the last 3 years. And she really knows what she's talking about. I'm so thrilled to have her here. I've done both of her classes for the self-image and the self-confidence. And Vanessa, maybe you can take a minute to kind of share a little bit more with us about that, how you got started with that and the struggles that you had.
Absolutely, Laura. Well, thank you for having me here. It's so fun to be here and to share, as always. Yes, so really growing up in I always say I grew up in a charmed life because I was very lucky, had a lot of support from my family, caring parents, brother. Grew up in South Africa, only been in the United States since 2001. So I am now pretty much American, but you can take the girl out of Africa, but you can't take Africa out of the girl. So there's still a lot of that within me. But as far as the confidence journey, I always say growing up as a dancer was a confidence building experience. As a young girl, it was good for my confidence to be in ballet and modern and jazz and tap and do all those things. But then when I finished college, where I got my degree in musical theater, stepping into the professional performance world is a whole different ball game. And quite often that industry, especially the people that run the industry, they don't really care about your feelings as much as they care about getting things the way they want them and doing things the way they want them to be. So I think the most revealing thing for me and the thing that taught me the most lessons within confidence and self-image is that a lot of times we take things really personally when it is someone else's objective perspective and their view. For instance, just you can imagine, and I like to compare this to within the entrepreneurial world where I am now, when you are going to networking events or you are going to one-on-one meetings with people, or maybe you going for job interviews, or you are trying to entice someone to sign up for something that you have. That's kind of like going to an audition, right? Going from audition to audition, learning to deal with rejection, and at the same time not taking it personally is a tough thing, because we don't always understand why things happen. And the first thing we do when things do not work out the way we want them to work out is we turn it back on ourselves and we say, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Or why am I not good enough? Or am I good enough? Or I'm not good enough. So that imposter syndrome, the imposter syndrome steps in, and you go, well, do I belong here? I really don't belong here. Maybe I should be doing something else. But just like in the performance industry, and that's really what helped me as an entrepreneur, understanding that not all opportunities are the right ones for us, and that if we're not right for a certain opportunity, there are others, because we get hung up on that fact. So just going back to the whole confidence and self-image piece, yes, growing up as a performer was really helping me with my self-image, self-confidence, but stepping into the performance world as an adult made it really difficult you get people who say horrible things to you. A little story that I always share is the time I went for an audition. It was a show that everyone in the country wanted at the time. There was only 2 slots open. I did a fabulous audition. I felt really good afterwards. You walk out, you wait for the phone call. So I was waiting for the phone call. The phone rings, pick it up, and it's the director. And here's what he said. He said, Vanessa, you danced circles around the other girls, but you got to lose those thighs. Right? So you go, in that moment, my heart sunk. The first thing I wanted to do was burst out in tears, but you don't. You hold your pose. You're like, okay, well, thank you. Didn't get the gig. And first thing I did was call my mom in tears. Mom, I need liposuction. I need this. I need that. So that's like a typical example of the kind of things that happen in that industry. And it's not so far removed from things that happen in other industries or in other areas of life as an employee or an employer or an entrepreneur. And so that's how I brought all that together eventually. Long story short.
I know that's always amazed me that somebody could even possibly even say that to you. I mean, I know people can't tell because you're sitting down, but this lady is far from really big thighs. And if you ever seen her, it just amazes me that people even have the gall to say things like that. But I think it brings up another kind of a good point because, your first instinct was to go do a liposuction, to go do this, which was kind of getting into that people pleasing mode. I mean, it was keeping it from your goat, but you're trying to please this person and kind of morph into something that you're not. And I think that really kind of plays havoc on, the person, your own self-image or your own self-confidence, because you start second guessing like everything.
You second guess everything. And you're like, okay, so I work out so many hours a day. I dance so many hours a day. I eat correctly. What else can I do? Right. What is it? So, and that's also why in that industry, there's so many issues with too much of that stuff, eating disorders and all those things, because it's really insensitive. These people don't think before they speak. And I know I did end up getting the job, and I end up years later talking to that director because I got pretty close to him and I reminded him of that. And he didn't even remember that he even said anything remotely like that. So coming back to the point that sometimes, as hard as it is, we need to step back and go, okay, is that really my problem or is it that person's issue? Right. And that's one of the big lessons I learned, that people sometimes, most of the times when people are mean to you or they might make comments that are negative, really the issue is theirs and not yours. They're mirroring their problems or their insecurities and projecting it onto you.
Right. And then you and I were also talking kind of about the flip side of that, because sometimes that self-image and self-confidence is yours to deal with, because if you don't, you do the people pleasing thing. And I was having another conversation in a different group with someone about this, today, because it was something that's rough to hear when someone says it's not you or it's not them, it's you. And it's always easy to say it's somebody else's fault, but it takes more to look at yourself, because if you keep finding yourself in the same kind of relationship or the same kind of situation, there's a common denominator there. And so I know I found myself in that situation when you constantly attracted all the people that were constant drama, and it piled on more stress and onto your plate. And, I was always wanted to help people. So I was always pleasing them and doing this, but it really piles a lot of stress on. And when one of my mentors told me, they said, it's not them, it's you. And then gave me this book. I was like, at first I was really annoyed, but when you look at it, if you set your own boundaries, and you build up your own confidence and, I don't want that in my life, and you start setting those boundaries, those people will sort themselves out. And I believe it all comes back to that whole vibration and attraction, and you start attracting the people that you want to be around that resonate with you.
Yes, because the way people treat you is all about what you're allowing. like you mentioned, the boundaries, right?
Mhm.
So how far are you allowing people to take those boundaries, right? What are you allowing to happen? We need to, again, take responsibility for that, because I was the same. And you and I had a little bit of a conversation about this too, Laura. When that day I on stage, I tell the story of sitting at that bar in Las Vegas when I just met Rob, my current husband. He's also the owner of Achieve Systems. But, we had just gotten to know each other a little bit, and we were having this deep conversation, and I was talking about, all the horrible things that I was going through at the time. And he looked at me and he said, Vanessa, you are totally being a floor rug for society. You're letting people stumble over you. And it was such like a punch in the stomach, because I had not realized that I had been allowing all this to go on. I didn't even realize that people were taking advantage of me to the level that they were. But yes, when you get that realization and someone makes you aware of it and you realize, wow, this is something I need to change, and I actually have the power to do so. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I teach, because everything I teach is about empowerment, about you understanding your role in all of this and how much power you have to change those things.
Yep. I always tell people it's like you have the power to control you and what you do. We can't control other people, what they think or their perceptions. So you change what you can, which is yourself, or you can control that. And that's, and then you'll attract those people that you need in your life.
Exactly. And Laura, I always say what I teach isn't revolutionary, but it's really about raising awareness. It is about coming back to that awareness, because we all get into that robotic mode of just doing the thing after the thing after the thing every day, and not really paying any attention. What is the intention? What is the end goal? How do we need to show up as human beings to really be that person we want to be and get where we want to go? And we are in control of that. And sometimes it's easier to just say, oh no, external circumstances. Sometimes those can be overwhelming, and sometimes those aren't always something we can control. But I would venture to say 9 out of 10 times, we do have some, again, it's about us. How are we receiving that thing? What are we allowing to happen? And how are we helping ourselves out of a situation, and not expecting others to do it for us, or just kind of becoming complacent and getting stuck in that place.
Yeah. And they all tie in together, because like you said, the more you have the self-confidence, the self-image, the more successful you'll be in your relationships, your business. It just all ties in. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it really is about stepping into your own power and embracing who you are, and knowing that you don't need to be someone different or something different to be enough. And if you embrace that, that is a huge step towards really taking control of your life, and then, of course, reaching your goals and success.
Yeah, and understand you're not
money,
going to
relationships.
Yeah, and understand that you're not going to be everything to everybody. That's just, that's just that's not even practical. So, why try?
That was tough for me. I have always been someone who, the thing I used to say that I look back on now and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is not a good way to be, was if that person's happy, I'm happy. So I would end up compromising myself in every single way, believing that I'm keeping that person happy. But at the same time, that makes for terrible relationships, because you don't communicate authentically, you don't communicate truthfully, because you end up hiding things because you don't want to upset another person or hurt their feelings, or whatever it may be. In my case, I just thought I was being what that person needed me to be. But in that journey, you lose yourself. You lose sight of who you are and what your purpose in life is.
Yeah, and I did something similar with you. For me, when with my late husband, it was always my husband, the dogs first. I always put myself last. You know, it wasn't until after he passed and I lost him that I started doing things for myself, like massages or That's when I first learned about massages or chiropractor. And it's like, oh, wow, there's like a whole nother, a whole nother world out there. And it really did start down the whole self-care journey. And, you know, I realized I can be more or give more to people when I've filled myself and taken care of myself first. And so part of why
Well,
I
yeah,
started this
that's that
group.
old story, right?
Yeah,
If your cup is empty, how can you share? There's nothing to share, right? You have to fill your cup first. You have to put that oxygen mask on first.
yep,
So you can be there for everybody else and share with everyone else. And that's also a subject matter I really love talking about with when it comes to financial success, because a lot of people who are helpers like you and me, we have for years thought by doing everything for free and giving as much as we can for nothing, we're doing those people a favor. But in the end, you're not, because you're just exhausting your own resources. And the more resources you have, the more people you can help.
yeah,
And that's really what it comes down to in the end.
absolutely. Yeah,
But you have to believe in yourself and you have to value yourself in order to gather those resources so you can be the helper to more people.
yeah, you do. And if I'll tell everybody here, if you've never taken her classes, I know Vanessa does online classes and the Show Up program and the Victory Factor. You know, she teaches you about the velvet rope. To me, the velvet rope and Vanessa are just synonymous. Whether I hear velvet rope or I see Vanessa, I just like automatically realize I need to sit up straighter. But there are wonderful classes. And if you've ever struggled with self-image or self-confidence, I would definitely reach out to Vanessa. She is absolutely wonderful at that. And she's been through a lot. I know you said I think you said instead of a show, you don't have a program coming up real quick, but you got a retreat coming up soon. If you would like to tell me about that.
I do. And thank you, Laura. I really appreciate that. And just so your audience knows, my programs are available online as a self-paced course, as well as I do sporadically teach them on Zoom in person. So reach out to me if you're interested. Either way, we can make that happen for you. But yes, the retreat, I am so excited about it. You know, it's coming up in April. It's going to be in Colorado Springs at a beautiful retreat center. And the goal with this retreat, and it is a women's retreat, it's targeted towards women. And it's really about stepping into your power so that you can attract the health, wealth, and success that you desire. And so I'm doing this with Dawn. So Dawn Livingston and I, we're going to work with you on not only those 2 days are going to be about spending time with yourself, total self-care, Laura, total self-care.
Total self-care.
We're going to do the things that you expect at a retreat. There's going to be a lot of activities, but also there's going to be a lot of work done. And we want you to walk away with tools that you can use to help you overcome the overwhelm, overcome the feeling of being non-energetic. We want to help you with your energy, with your time management, with also removing limiting beliefs, right? Dawn does these beautiful energy clearings. We're going to do energy clearings. We're going to do yoga and Pilates, and we're going to work on posture and body language. And we're going to, do some creative things to really tap into, firstly, what are these things? What are these beautiful goals that we want for ourselves? And what is that future vision you have and you want to step into? And then we're going to share with you the tools that you can use every day of your life from then on to help you get there without the stress and the overwhelm and the I don't have enough time and the I don't have enough energy.
Yeah. And I think that's a perfect opportunity. So if you've never even had a vacation, because you don't have to be in Colorado Springs, I can tell you, I know Dawn's coming back from Texas because she moved from Colorado to Texas, and she's coming back to Colorado Springs to help host that retreat with you. So it's a perfect little getaway vacation, just unplug, leave the cell phone somewhere else and just
Right, right.
just dive into yourself. And I'm sure Dawn will be talking about it a little bit more, because I'll have Dawn on here in a couple of weeks, and about vibration and
Absolutely.
energy clearing, getting rid of those limiting beliefs, the whole thing. That would be a beautiful
Yeah.
retreat.
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura. And, you know, you mentioned the velvet rope, and everyone might wonder what that's about. One of my passions, and one of the things that I'm so, I don't know, it's just the thing for me, is really working with everybody on posture and body language, because when you understand that and you understand the changes it can make in your energy, your life, the way you feel, it changes. There's hormonal changes, all kinds of things that happen, which aids that self-image and self-confidence thing. Really, it's life-changing. It's so simple. It's almost so simple you go, okay, this can't even be real. But you know, I'll never forget when oh, what's her name? Sacristan. No, she took my course, and
Yeah,
what's her name? It's just slipped.
I'll think of it. I just lost it myself, but I'll think of it. Yeah.
Anyway, it was so funny because she took my show up program, and she did week 1 and we did week 2, and into week 3, she called me up. She said, Vanessa, I just had 3 meetings and I got 3 new clients. And I think it was because I was sitting up straight. It's like, well, yes, that's where it begins. But, you know, when you learn about the power of that and the effect of that and what it means, it's so empowering, and it can make such big changes. So, yes, so that's what the velvet rope was about. And so come to the retreat or come do my show program, and you'll learn about the red velvet rope.
Yeah, there you go. And that's it. It's something simple. I think a lot of times we make things way too complicated, and it just, especially if you overthink things, I have a tendency to do that. I'm like, keep it simple. It's the best thing to do.
Right, right. And not only that, you know, Laura, when it comes to posture, we don't really think about this, but most people experience pain in their bodies because of poor posture, poor movement patterns, right?
Right.
And when we're in pain, we are grumpy. I always say, I'm so grumpy, I'm irritable, I'm this and that when I'm in pain. So it's really difficult to be that happy, bright, energetic person when you're in pain all the time. But when you realize it's related to movement patterns and posture, and you realize, wow, I can actually get rid of the pain by working on this simple thing. It already changes that whole energy. It changes so much.
Yeah. Well, that is just, I mean, a tidbit of what, you know, you can learn working with Vanessa. So like I said, if you ever struggled with self-confidence or self-image, or you want to reach a new level of health, wealth, or success, absolutely reach out to Vanessa. We will put the information in the comments of how best to contact her and about the retreat as well. We'll post that up in his comments too. But I want to thank you for joining me today. It's always lovely talking to you, and thank everyone for joining us. So,
and thank you too for bringing the awareness to everyone about how important it is to, in fact, take care of yourself.
Well, that is my whole goal and idea for this group, is to continue to bring resources, education, and keep connecting people to all the professionals out there so that they can support them on their self-care journey. Because self-care isn't selfish, it is essential for a healthier you. And that is important to remember. And we're going to continue these conversations tomorrow with Lori Kroger. She is a life coach, so come back tomorrow afternoon and join us. Or if you need to, you can watch the replay in this group, or click on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link for that as well. And you can catch up on all the interviews with whoever you need to see and connect with. That way you won't have to search for them. Just go to the YouTube channel. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.